This is Richard C. Wilson of the Family Office Club. Today we're doing an investor mandate interview with Roy. Welcome, Roy.
Hello, good morning.
What type of an investor are you?
I guess we would call us both private, but we're an institutional group, a fund, something of a quasi-family office that identifies opportunities and then goes to create the mandate to basically just finish on that mandate.
Sure, and I know that you invest sometimes in the cannabis or more so the hemp and CBD spaces. Can you qualify and clarify for other investors listening, the difference of your focus on hemp versus maybe many other companies within the niche?
Sure. Well, obviously the initial focus for a number of years was in cannabis and in the marijuana space, or let's say specifically the THC space. As of the Farm Act, the Farm Bill that was passed in 2018, the focus has shifted for a lot of investors, especially since there's less, or at least the legal implications have been de-risked or minimized. So the focus now has been, and there's a pivot really by a lot of investors, institutional investors in particular, toward those things that are CBD or hemp related. In other words, anything that is or 0.3% or less THC content.
Right. Okay, great. And then I know some investors are, they get concerned over the legalization of marijuana, but with CBD with such a low THC content, I guess that makes a difference of maybe having some therapeutical benefits without being maybe, what do they call it, psychoactive, like psychologically kind of changing how your brain works because the THC level is so small, but you're getting the cannabinoids still. Is that the essence of it at the center?
Well, again, the particular the chemical compounds, or at least the chemical makeup of cannabis, and it's all cannabis. Hemp and marijuana are basically the same plant. Okay,
sure.
They're of the same family, the cannabinoid family, but they've been separated per se into different categorizations because of the content of the chemical, the THC. The THC is the chemical compound that gives you the high.
Right.
CBD is the other most prevalent compound in marijuana or hemp, and you can get CBD from either quote marijuana or from hemp. But hemp was classified or identified under the recently signed, it was in 2018, the Farm Bill that was passed by Congress and signed by the president to legalize hemp. So hemp derived CBD is legal, whereas CBD derived from quote marijuana is not legal. At least it's still classified. The CBD is classified under the drug. What do they call it? Section one drug. I forget the classification. Right. It's still identified as a drug compound.
Okay, great. Thanks for explaining that. So in terms of investments you're looking for, I guess hemp-related investments or CBD, hemp-derived CBD-related investments are things that you're keeping an eye out for maybe your next round of investments that would come up in the future. Is that right? So what would be the types of CBD products that would be of most interest, or the number one type that you're just kind of keeping an eye out for to see if you could add to what you're doing?
Well, what we have focused on are those areas of extraction and processing. We actually had started a company called Zephyr Labs back in 2016, and that was more R&D. That was to develop certain types of pharma-grade products. So we went forward with that, and then this was prior to the Farm Bill being passed. As we looked at the market and looked at the industry, it's a very nascent industry, very fragmented. We've seen a lot of the issues that have happened within the quote marijuana side of the business, especially in Canada. And there's been a number of actually quite spectacular failures, where a lot of money was put into some of these early cannabis stocks, and
Right.
not doing very well. And a lot of that is just there was some mismanagement, I believe, but there's also just too much of the euphoria of getting rich quick, and of course
Right.
the identifying the gold rush.
Right.
So what we've done, of course, is taken a more cautious approach, I guess, and seeing what has actually happened, seeing where the bottlenecks have laid. A lot of those bottlenecks we've identified within the processing and extraction space. So we've looked at this, and the term of vertically integrated company is a little overused
Right.
from what I've seen, but this let's call it a longitudinal aspect, knowing where the plant comes from, the genetics, the seed genetics, how it is being operated. Let's call it the operating procedures for the farm where it's grown, even the nutrients, the fertilizers, all those sorts of things, to the next step where you're actually extracting the oil out of the plant, to the following stage as far as how it's being extracted, because there's a number of ways to extract the oil from the hemp plant in this conversation that we're having.
Right.
and making sure that you don't destroy some of the positive molecular aspects of that oil that you're trying to get at. But there's a number of aspects to hemp that companies have not really looked at as well. And when I say longitudinal, we're looking at all aspects of hemp. We're saying, yes, CBD is at the apex. So if you were looking at hemp as almost like a pyramid,
Right.
CBD and the oil is at that top, okay, because that's where the highest use or highest monies can be made. But as you move down, there's a lot of other uses. There's hemp fabric, fibers, the seed,
Right.
those other things that there's not really a market here in the United States yet. Small, located, let's say regional type markets, but we're starting to see that develop. Obviously, given the fact that we're all being kept at home because of this virus,
Right.
we think there's going to be quite a bit of a change. I mean, even kind of societal changes as we move forward, moving more
Right.
with, maybe plant-based medicines or cures. Some of the old holistic, naturopathic, even Ayurvedic, Indian and Chinese type of
Sure.
medicines. We think that will start culminating and being brought together, even with CBD. In fact, we're doing things with that now. Hemp fabrics, that's an area, hemp fiber, that is really interesting to us, because we think that's got huge potential. But again, we don't have the infrastructure in the United States like they have in other locations. So that's an area that we're starting to focus some attention on.
Okay, great. Yeah, appreciate that. And what would your number one piece of advice be for somebody who is investing? It could be related to what you've learned about investing in hemp, or it could be about, some other investment lesson that you've learned over the last decade that you could share with another investor listening here.
I would say it's kind of basic. Invest in what you know, and what you think learn a lot more about it, and just feel comfortable in that particular space.
Right. There's always another layer deeper you can go on any niche, right? No one knows everything about anything, right? No. So, yeah, great. I appreciate your time here today, Roy, and we'll hope to see you on one of our virtual panels coming up, and at one of our live events when those start up here again.
All right. Thanks for your time today.
Take care. You too.